Hi, everybody. I wanted to come live here tonight. It's Monday night. And I wanted to, I was looking over some direct sales statistics, which I thought were really powerful and interesting. Like, why do we do what we do in direct sales, and what kind of keeps us motivated for a long period of time? In fact, Trisha and I were just talking about the idea of grit. Hi, Lauren. We were just talking about the idea of grit, and especially with school age students. There's so many different definitions of grit. So, hi, Stacy. So grit could be defined as, hi, Amanda. Grit can be defined as courage and resolve, toughness, determination. Grit can be defined, as Angela Duckworth defined it in her TED Talk, as passion and perseverance for long-term goals, not just days, not just weeks, but months or years. Hi, Christy. We were thinking that this might be a good topic, is what is staying power? And then that led me to staying power in a company like this, or staying power in a business, staying power in direct sales. And so it got me to look at some statistics in direct sales. Hi, Margie. I'm going to move this over real quick, and you guys can comment or whatever. But we are here almost to the end of February. I'm so excited. It's exciting to see what can happen as the weather breaks, and certainly with your sales for Valentine's, because, I know many of you got creative, which is awesome. And I know some of you are still selling your, retired items in your VIP groups, which is great. So this was fascinating. So in 2017, the numbers in direct sales, the direct sales world, were this: 18.6 million consultants. 18.6 million consultants in direct sales. And direct sales is a very big umbrella. But it was super fascinating to find out a little bit more of the breakdown. Only 0.9%, so about 167,000 of the 18 million were full-timers, compared to about 1.6, almost 2 million of people who did it part-time. So only 167,000 people doing it full-time, making a full-time income. It didn't say what their income was. And then closer to 2 million doing it more on the side. I thought that was interesting. Accounting for 34.9, almost $35 billion in retail sales. $35 billion in sales. Okay, so there's a lot of pie to be had, right? I found this interesting, that the percentages, the age ranges were really sort of varied. But here, so 20% of that 18.6 million were in the 25 to 34 range, so 20%. A higher percentage were in the 35 to 44 age range, was 28%. And 25% were 44 to 55. And only 12% were over 55. So I'll say that again, because again, this is going to be interesting for you to keep in mind when you're recruiting. So 20% were in 25 to 34 age range. 28% were in the 35 to 44, and 25% were 44 to 55, with only 12% over 55. So, the biggest chunk is between really 35 and 55 is the biggest chunk. So think about that, 35 to 55-year-olds. So I thought that was interesting. Some of the main predictors of why people start and stay. Number one was the product. Okay, you had to be connected to the product. But was even more interesting, so again, remember how we always talk about, why does someone book a party? We always talk about the product and getting it for free, when meanwhile, It's really about you and whether they like you and they trust you, whether they're going to book a party. But when it comes to the business model itself, sometimes we're talking about money as the main thing, right? And it was so interesting that the boomers, so different age range, right? They want more flexibility, so that 55-year-old, the 55 to 64-year-old, though that crew, the boomers, they wanted to be told more about the flexibility of the business, the timing of the business, what they can get for their, while they're in retirement or while they're waning off in terms of work. But the younger crew in the 35 range, they want more of a sense of purpose. It makes sense, right? They want more of a sense of purpose. So make sure you're noticing how you're talking to people about the business. They want more of a sense of purpose. They want to know about personal growth, learning, and knowledge, right? And that's huge over here. We have all that. And I found this to be interesting, that flexibility, networking flexibility was the biggest lifestyle draw, having the flexibility to either stay at home or to retire. So that flexibility really got people interested in the business. But interesting, networking was a lower percentage and recognition was a very low 20%, where lifestyle and flexibility was more like 54 and 65%. And the income potential, meaning people consider this as big income potential, entrepreneurial potential, right? It's much higher. They have a long-term goal. Those folks, and that's a higher percentage. It's more like 62 and 59. So where product was only 44%. So product, the lower things that will draw people would be product, networking, recognition, meeting new people, and recognition. While the higher percentages of what got people here and staying here was flexibility and lifestyle, entrepreneurial mindset, like growth mindset, income potential, so making sure that you're comfortable talking about the income potential with people. And that kind of brings us back to grit. Trish and I were just talking a little bit about grit and the definitions of grit. And I love Angela Duckworth's TED Talk on grit. She was talking about students, 7th graders, and whether or not we can, as parents or, village, if we're taking care of kids in the community or whatever, can we teach grit? Can adults learn grit? Kind of thing. If you didn't have grit or you had some grit as a child, grit is defined as passion, perseverance with like long-term goals. Totally actually inverse related to talent. Very interesting. So, it kind of goes back to the post that I made last week. And for those of you who read that post, a little bit about me, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And also, yesterday was my 10th anniversary with Touchstone Crystal. And I can tell you that I had no idea that I would be here for 10 years. No idea. When I first started this, I started for some of the reasons why we were talking before about the idea of flexibility. I wanted to stay home with my kids. I thought I could make some money. I had no idea. But as I started going into that first 6 months, I thought, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to stick it out for 3 to 5 years. That's what I said. And I wanted to make 6 figures. I really wanted to push myself back then. And talent isn't necessarily the only thing that allows somebody to stay in this for 10 years. I really do feel that it has something to do with grit, that ability to have a growth mindset. So Carol Dweck did some work on the growth versus the fixed mindset. And many times you've seen me post a little bit about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. But I can tell you that growth mindset is the belief in the ability to, that learning, the amount of how much you can learn is not fixed. It's not capped. It's unlimited. So that's a growth mindset. And that's directly related to grit, right? Which is inversely related, which is opposite of talent. Okay. So many times we get into this business, and even some of you have recruited people, and we're teaching and we're training and we're teaching and we're training. And if people have a fixed mindset, it's not as easy to learn, is it? Where you think that you're capped off at learning and you should be done learning, kind of thing. If you have a fixed mindset, you don't have as much grit, let's say. Don't know, but that's what they're saying. If you don't have enough grit, right? If you don't have that mainstay of grit, that perseverance for the long term, rather than the need to have the short-term result, that's more of a fixed mindset. So do we have a fixed mindset? Do we have a growth mindset? Do we have a growth mindset? Do we have grit? Where's talent fall into all of that? How much are you able to learn? Are you excited about learning? Do you notice? We talk all the time about this. Do you reflect over what just happened when you went to a party? What do you say to yourself after a party? Do you say, oh, I didn't book any parties for the last 4 parties. I suck at that. No. What can you learn by it? What can you learn with your upline? What can you uncover about yourself? If there's so many times, right? If we just tweak a little bit, that's grit. That takes grit. So, and that takes the idea that if I tweak it just a little bit more and give it another chance, what could happen? For example, I challenge some of you to, how we do booking blitzes, right? So I challenge some of you to do a sponsoring blitz also. Now, sponsoring blitz is a little bit challenging in that you're not used to using that language. You're not necessarily used to driving people to a particular call time. But what would happen if you tried it and practiced it and your mindset opened, your growth mindset opened? We have nothing to lose. So it's just very interesting. If you understand a little bit more about how the brain works and how the brain is a muscle, right? The more we learn, the more we grow, the more, actually, I bet you, the more grit we sort of build up inside, and the more perseverance that you can have. There are so many of you that have been around for such a long time, years doing this, years. And, it's just wonderful that you have that stick-to-itiveness, And another thing, too, that I do want to make sure that everybody is clear on, if you're finding energy and joy from what you're doing in direct sales. I don't know about you, but I love my jewelry. It makes me feel fantastic. I can just wear a simple blouse and a sweater, and I can put on some jewelry, and boom, you just feel amazing, like you can conquer anything. But my point is that if you're having fun and there's joy involved with what you're doing, and you're sharing that joy, and you have great energy, that is the most important part of this business. It's not necessarily rather about how much you're making. It's not necessarily about your promotional level. The thing is though, how would you know what it would feel like if you did push yourself a little bit and you did stretch yourself a little bit? What would that feel like if you accomplished those things and really just got to that next place? What would that feel like? So I'm always a pusher, I'm always a challenger. I do feel like this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And that goes along with grit all the way. Because I just had 10 years, you guys. How many of us can say they've been in direct sales with one company for 10 years? It's something. It's very something. I tell you what, let me see here. Hi, girls. So anyway, so I was talking about grit. I was saying to you, do you have that growth mind? I'm encouraging everybody to have that growth mindset. Awesome. And, think about your long-term. And again, I'm not a big fan of talking about goals per se. I'm more of a fan of talking about growth. I'm more of a fan of talking about like moving yourself, moving the needle forward. Are you moving forward? A lot of times we talk, oops, what's the matter? Oh, thanks, Maris. By the way, Kelly Bufa found this awesome settee for me. Look at it, you guys. Look, check it out. Look it in my office. Isn't that cool? So she found it for me and I went and picked it up. I just got it home tonight and it fits perfectly here in my office. As you can see, all my awesome, you girls are awesome. Valerie gave me this. Debbie gave me this. And those I got at Tony Robbins. So I get to sit here and do my calls now. Thank you very much, Miss Kelly. You'll all have to come up and visit. But anyway, so we were just talking a little bit about having more of a growth mindset. So one of the things we were talking also earlier, if you just hopped on, we talked about the percentages of direct sellers in the country, and it's a $35 billion industry. But what really motivates the age ranges and what really motivates the different ages? It makes sense, but be careful and be cautious that you're not only talking about the product. And be careful and be cautious that you're not always focusing or thinking that somebody's why is only because they love the product. That might get them in the door, but that's not the thing that keeps them here. What keeps them here, and that's why I encourage you all to know what keeps people here. What keeps people here is the idea of a long-term, again, that idea that they can put something in the works for a long term, that they have unlimited income potential. So understanding income is going to be very important for you. And sometimes you don't understand income until you start earning more than $3,000 in a year, let's say. So, and that's powerful. $3,000 in a year is very powerful. But once you start understanding that $3,000, you can actually be earning $1,000 a month, and $12,000 in a year, you see you went from $3,000 in a year to $12,000. Now you understand a little bit more about the potential. And once you understand a little bit more about the potential, now you can generate a conversation a little bit differently with different joy and different energy. So, that's kind of a little bit behind that. We were mentioning about grit and growth mindset. And the idea that the growth mindset is belief that our learning is not capped. Belief that learning can happen all the time. And that tweaking, like we talk a little bit about, I love this, for those of you who are sometimes thinking, now whether it's your life or whether it's has to do with your, Touchstone Crystal business, but so many times we have the impression that we're going 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. 2 steps forward. Well, if you go 2 steps forward, watch this, you guys. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, so if this is 0 and this is whatever 20 over here, and if we went 2 steps forward and 5 steps back, where are you going? And then 2 steps forward and then 5 steps back, and then 2 steps forward and then 5 steps back, and then 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. Where are you going? You're going backward. What if, for your business, if you took that grit on and you really dug deep and had that growth mindset and you were doing 10 steps forward for the normal, natural 5 steps back? Because life happens. Kim Dvorsky just had twin grandsons born. So she's been taking time with her family in the last 6-8 weeks, right? So she may not be able to do 10 steps forward because, well, right now she's got the 5 steps back, let's say. But my point is if we only do 2 steps forward and 5 steps back, 2 steps forward and 5 steps back, we're going backwards. But if we make the effort to go 10 steps forward, you guys, for the normal, natural rubber band that life brings us back sometimes, we still will be going in the forward direction. That's a little bit about grit. That's a little bit about grit. Doing the simplest things. And I guess I'll leave you with this thought. We're coming into the second month of the year. We're coming into, the home stretch of the second month of the year. And I highly encourage you to, first of all, finish strong. If you've got some things going on, be excited. I've talked to a couple of you who have 2 parties this coming weekend and 2 parties next weekend. So you are really going to be finishing strong, which is awesome. I've talked to many of you who have Hawaii on your sites, Maui on your sites. This is great. But also, some of you who potentially have this pattern of you're trying to book parties inside of this month. And what happens is you get to the end of the month on February 28th and you're like, I didn't really get what I wanted, but I did get a little bit, but now I got to start all over again for March. And then you do the whole thing over again. You're trying to book within the month. So I would suggest that you use this week. Depending on what you got, you could always finish strong, but I would use this week as your week for a booking blitz for March. We've got St. Patty's in there. We've got a ton of great weekends. Really stretch yourself and use this week for a booking blitz for March. And then what happens is you build a wave of momentum so that you're not trying to book right here. You're looking ahead. So that by the end of this month, you can start your host coaching. Or if you only have 2 and you want 2 more, let's say, you can continue to do the March and you're not even into March just yet. Okay? So if I could encourage you to do that, that would be a great thing to do this week. So let's come back to where everybody is. And hi, Carrie. Hi, Ange. Hi, Valerie. Hey, Cher. So anyway, that's really what I wanted to focus on. If you came on late, definitely scoot back and listen. I gave some great statistics. We talked a little bit about grit. We talked about moving 10 steps forward for the normal, natural 5 steps back of life, of living. Sometimes we get sick. Sometimes we get hung up. Sometimes we've got kids to take care of. Sometimes we have snow. So if we can go forward 10, what does forward 10 look like? Forward 10 looks like, many more outreaches maybe than 2 or 3, to try to get your bookings. Like do more outreaches with lots of energy. Maybe you take some time. If you have a little downtime this month, maybe you do the outreach for sponsoring, and you drive them. Every time you're doing a process for sponsoring, for recruiting, you can work with your upline, you can work with me, and you send out 10 messages, great sponsoring messages, and you let them know that we're looking for a 20-minute call if they'd be interested in learning more about that. What do you have to lose? You've got nothing to lose. You've got everything to gain. Get that grit going. Get that grit going for a strong February. And if you don't have the bookings you're looking for, finish strong. Come on, you know what we're talking about. Finish strong, but use this week as your week to book your March. All right? Can we have I'm not sure what you mean, Cal. I just encourage you, again, I mentioned it yesterday was my anniversary, and I just encourage you to think about what's really possible in direct sales, all right? By the way, we are having a retreat here. Kelly's bringing this up, but we are having a retreat here the weekend of March 23rd. So it'll be a all-day Saturday event, and for those of you who are fairly local, you can stay overnight. If you're outside of 2 hours and you want to stay overnight, I'll have hotels. If you want to fly in, I know there was 1 or 2 of you who are asking me about flying in. But on March 23rd, we'll have a little bit of a retreat. It'll be a Saturday night, and we'll do a Saturday night dinner, and you're welcome to stay over, and then we'll have a Sunday part of the morning, and then people can travel home. So, you're welcome to come in Friday night before, so the 22nd if you wish. But yes, Kelly, we will be hosting a fun little retreat here in March as we kick off spring. So I'm excited for that, and I would love to have you. So definitely put it on your calendar. And I think we covered everything tonight. I just, as I was saying about my anniversary and stuff, and I just want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate you for all of your strengths and for everything that you're doing, no matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter if you're a senior executive director, if you're a brand new consultant. I appreciate you for giving it a try. I appreciate you for testing it out. I appreciate you for pushing yourself, even when no one's talking to you. for staying around. There's so many of you that have been here for years. I mean, just beautiful, just beautiful. And there are some of you who are just getting that fire going. Boy, I'm really seeing you. Like Sherry, I'm really seeing you stretch yourself. I mean, Sherry Walmsley is on this call, and I remember the first couple of times we chatted and we had some new consultant training going. And I remember the first day she had her list, and you know, I had challenged her to send out 10 messages with the booking message. She didn't even launch yet. And I had suggested that the challenge was to book 2 parties for after her launch party. And by the time I talked to her, maybe it was a week or 2 later, she did not do it because she was anxious. She was a little nervous, right, Cher? But I have to tell you, it didn't take her long, I would say, right, Sherry? Right, honey? It didn't take her long, you know, to really sort of spread her wings and really get that grit going and really get that growth mindset going. And, you know, with the help of Valerie, who is an excellent leader, really, really, you know, kind of supporting her and gently pushing her and guiding her. And Sherry is coming along. Like, your bookings are phenomenal. Her sales are phenomenal. She's right at the cusp of, you know, getting into that groove for recruiting. Get going, girl, because you are a leader. You definitely are a leader. So I appreciate you. So I appreciate all of you. Sharon sent me a lovely little card. Oh my God, a beautiful little thing saying, you know, thank you for being supportive. And I so appreciate you. You girls are amazing. I don't know that I would be here for 10 whole years if it wasn't for you girls. So thank you. I see. Antonia, what are you saying here? I appreciate your great leaf. Let's see. Maybe you mean lead? Maybe? Maybe. Oh, good, Sherry. I'm glad. I'm super glad. I'm trying to think who else is on here that I want to do a shout out for. You know, just staying with it, even when you have doubts. And every one of us have had doubts. You know, I could sit here and tell you stories. Oh, thank you, Antonia. Thank you so much. That's special. Thank you so much. I can tell you stories. It was around 3 years. It was around 2012, and I thought I was going to leave. It was darn rough, I have to tell you. The system wasn't the way it was today. We had none of the e-marketing tools that were in force today. We didn't have the training that we have, our beautiful blue buttons that we have on Glam Central to help a brand new consultant. We didn't have that. You know, it was just tough, I have to say. And the jewelry wasn't what it was as it is today. And we saw turnover on the inside, and you know, the corporate staff and stuff. And so there were plenty of times when I felt like I questioned myself whether I wanted to be here. I guess I would say, you know, one of the things. Thank you, Sharon. And one of the things that. Thank you, Rosemary. That's so kind. I would just say is, you know, pick my brain. You know, like if you want to have a call and you just want to ask questions of me rather than me asking questions of you, my goodness. I mean, you can ask questions right here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm on the best little settee couch ever. Thank you very much, Miss Kelly. She showed it to me. I was so excited. I ran down to Lancaster and got it. But anyway, so, I mean, pick your upline's brain. You know, Trish, and even Rosemary's been around in direct sales for such a long time. Tracy, Valerie, Lisa Mar, I mean, Christine. You know, you girls have been around for so long, and there's so many leaders. You know, just pick somebody's brain and just really ask them the questions if you're stuck somewhere. I know Amanda is great at that. She will text me, hey, ready to talk? I know we're about ready to talk again, I'm sure. But she'd say, hey, how did you do this? Or what did you think about this? Or how do you do this? And the most inquisitive mind, the growth mindset mind, the one that's open to learning is really the one that's going to match up with grit. That's going to match up with a good feeling inside, you know? So does anyone have any questions for me while I'm sitting here? Anything? Ask away. I'm here. You can ask. I'm here. I'll stay. Well, Rosemary, give me if you're still there, what are you excited about in 2019? Maybe share a little bit of that if you can. I don't know if you're driving, but if you're able to type, tell the girls what you're excited about. Rosemary's been around for 4 years now. Her anniversary came up on 4 years. So congratulations, Miss Rosemary, and so did Tracy. Let's see. Sharon's been here for, it'll be a year coming up. Let's see. Oh, good, you're there. So Rosemary, what are you excited about? How do you not overbug people? That's a great question. So Rosemary, mention if you can, if you're typing, what are you excited about? Something fresh and new. Maybe something came to you, maybe something you noticed, anything in particular. 4 years is a long time for people to be around, and God bless you both. Christy Callahan asks, how do you not overbug people? So I'm assuming, Christy, that you're talking, have to be honest. So yeah, and so Rosemary is a great example. I'm going to answer your question, Christy, here in a second, but Rosemary is a great example of, she has other businesses that she runs. She had a little studio boutique for a little while, but she's also a concierge, a very boutique-y concierge with some of the unbelievable, beautiful places up in Napa. She's excellent at that. So she was testing different things along the way, and now she says I am most excited to be back. So, how cool is that, really? That the business is growing? Oh, yeah, totally on trend. Totally everything, the best catalog. Really current. That's it. Very good. Coming back to Christy Callahan's question, she was saying about how do you not overbug people. So, Christy, I'm assuming that you mean, okay, good. So here, let me just see what you're saying, Sharon, about, okay, so let's talk about that, not bugging people. Okay, first of all, I want you to think about, remember, if you have the growth mindset, there are hundreds of thousands of people in your area. Thousands of people in your area, not just in your backyard, okay? All right, because the world is closer now, okay, than ever before. So again, interestingly, I want to tell you this statistic while I have you on the phone, while I have you on the call. 68% of Americans do not like to buy online. Gotta remember that. So this isn't like one of those things where Facebook parties are going to work all the time. Okay, so it's not like social media is the thing, right? It's not necessarily the thing. So 68% of Americans don't like to buy online without seeing the product. So as far as bugging people, I do not bug people. I never feel like I bug people. People know I invite people all the time. I invite them. And so, Christy, this is part of the internal feeling, okay? Part of the internal feeling, Sharon, Christy, that you have something to offer people. And not just the circle of people that you keep circling around. You offer it to other people. And I don't put something in, how should I say this? I don't talk about the jewelry, I think, as much as many people talk about the jewelry. I like the jewelry, don't get me wrong, but I don't focus on the jewelry. I'm not saying that this is how you have to do it. But if you're asking me, I'm going to tell you, I don't focus on what they can get for free. I don't focus on just look at the product. I'm wearing the product. If they like the product, I immediately go to, if I'm meeting them out and about, or if I'm networking. I get myself out and about, Christy. Okay, so just so you know, I know that you work a full-time job, right? I like that offer, the jewelry. I'm not sure what you mean. I don't offer the jewelry as the hook. I don't say, here, look at my website. I rarely say anything like that. I keep them connected to me. And so if if they like what they see and I strike up a conversation, I might say to them, my gosh, you are so fun. If I'm laughing with them at a networking group, like, do you do girls' night? Do you get the girls, you and your girlfriends together, like for wine and cheese or anything like that? That is how I do it. And then I go right from there and I go, because that's what I love to do. That is my most fun. That's the most fun that we can offer, which is I bring a little bit of jewelry pouch, over to your house. We open it up. It's a pop-up. It's very quick, a couple of hours. We have wine and cheese. We're just relaxing, having a great time. And the girls get to try on jewelry. They get to feel like a princess for the night. And they shop away and they have a great time. And that's what I talk about. And so I don't always circle back to the same people. I'm always kind of getting out there and refreshing my group. I have more leads than time is always what I say. I have more leads than time. I have been saying I have more leads than time. I have been saying that to myself as a mantra since 2007, you guys. 2007, I have more leads than time. Did I always believe it at first? Probably not. But the more I said it, the more leads I had. I have more leads than time. I have more leads. If you always look at the people on your list as a doorway and you're always asking for referrals, right? Always asking for referrals. That's another thing. If you start here, I should say you start here at the bottom of the mountain and you're talking about jewelry all the time, you know what I mean? You got nowhere to go. It's hard to talk about a party, and then it's hard to talk about the business. But if you talk about the bigger picture of what the night that you're going to share with them or the possibilities of income, you know, the bigger picture, you've got more to talk about, you know? And the other thing is, if you're talking about the business and, you know, it trickles down into maybe a party and you can say, and they say, no, oh God, I don't do that. Like I had a woman just the other night, I worked with Christine and we did an event. And a woman said, you know, I used to do all that. I got burnt out. And I said, oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. And then I come to learn that she, you know, used to sell Leo Sophia. And I said to her, oh my gosh, I can totally imagine you were a blast, you know. And I just gently changed the subject a little bit. Before you knew it, she was thinking of the people that have been inviting her to parties. And she was actually starting to think about who she could refer to me because I'm always asking for referrals. Always asking for referrals, you guys. I mean, like that's got to be the next thing out of your mouth. So I talk about the business. I talk about some bookings. I talk about the jewelry. I never throw it or sling it or feel like, hey, get it for free. You could get this for free. That is such a, so I have to tell you, if you find yourself saying that a lot, I highly recommend that you shift that because it's not about your circle. It's about your verbiage. It's about your verbiage. So I have more leads than time. Karen, I have been saying that since 2007. And like I said, in the beginning, I didn't necessarily believe that. But if you think about it and you're talking about the business, you're talking about the possibilities, and then you talk about a girls' night, a fun girls' night, and then you're talking about the jewelry, and you just say, oh, well, who is it that you get? Who's the one inviting you? You're asking for referrals all the time, asking for referrals. And remember, I'll just show you this, you guys, okay? I just had this conversation with somebody. You're asking for referrals, okay? Let's say you ask for 10 referrals in a week, 10 referrals in a week because you're having 10 conversations. You're talking to these people. Those particular people aren't going to give you referrals necessarily. But what happens is the universe is hearing you want referrals. And guess what happens? They come out of nowhere. Referrals will come out of nowhere when you're asking for referrals. When you're talking about the business opportunity because you believe in the direct sales industry and you believe that something is powerful and you believe that it can be for any age range, you're talking about this a lot. That person that you're talking to may not be the person that signs on, but the energy and the reverberation that goes out of you will have people coming in. You'll have them at the next party. But if you're not talking about the business at a party, it's very hard then to start, you know, if you're dark and you're down low and you're talking just about the sales. I mean, all I can tell you is it's very hard to come up to the light and talk about the business. I highly encourage you to talk about the business first. I highly encourage you to use the party presentation that I've talked about for, you know, months now. It's not hard. All you got to do is practice and read it. Get excited about it because there's possibilities. What would it feel like if you had that grit? We were talking about grit earlier. If you had that feeling of long-term goal, like long-term vision, and what would it feel like to know that you helped somebody else's life? Does that come into here? Because when I go to a party, that's what I think about. I don't think about my sales. If I'm at a vendor show, I'm not thinking about the sales. I'm really not thinking about how I have to make up the money for the table. I'm thinking about who's here? Who can I meet? I'm so dang excited to meet people because I know that one person, a good interaction with one person, means that that person could be the doorway to another 100 people because we connect dots all the time. Okay? So if that one person booked a party, or if they gave me a referral, that's it. Yes, Marissa. So if they gave me a referral, gosh knows that could lead to 5 parties. Trish is a great example if Trish is still on the call. Trish had gotten a lead up about 45 minutes north of where we live, right? And it's cold town. It's a cold town. So it's not, I should say, it may not be as hopping, let's say, as the suburbs or the Philadelphia area, or you know what I mean? It's not necessarily, it's a beautiful area. It's beautiful, mountainous. It's wonderful. Trish goes up there. She has 5 recruits just from that area alone now over the less than a year. She's gotten parties and sales. It's been amazing. It's been truly, truly, truly special because she just went up to a different area. It was 45 minutes away. So again, it's not, so Christy, I don't know if you're hearing me. It's not just your backyard. It's where you can branch out and where you can go and meet people and do maybe a networking breakfast or a networking luncheon or a happy hour or something. Sometimes they have those stuff. You can check, I know in Pennsylvania we have pavendors.com, so pavendors.com. Or I can tell you, I would suggest go on your phone, go open Facebook, and then go to the 3 lines. If you have an iPhone, go to the 3 lines and open up events. You're going to see events that are near you that you never even knew were there. If you don't look under events, you won't find them. So, I mean, it's just go look at events that are coming up around. You don't have to have a table. You can just go meet people. Did I tell you that story? So back when in the first 2 years, you guys, I love telling these stories. I would fly to areas that I wanted to grow. Texas is the only place that the Crystal City is not, okay? But I used to fly to like Dallas. I did an event there. It was $1,000 for the table. I worked a couple of days. I went out in California, Central California, and I did some things out there. Boston, the whole reason why the whole team, Marissa and all you girls from Boston are up in that area, Bonnie and Renee, the whole reason was because I drove up to Boston by myself, $1,000 table, and I'm not saying that you spend $1,000. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you want to talk about grit, I had never been to Boston. It was the Boston Governor's Conference for women. And I stayed in a hotel. I unpacked my car at 5:30 in the morning and set it up in the enormous convention center, and then went and parked my car and walked in the freezing cold back to the convention center. And I set up the table, and I had met a gal who was also vending. She was a life coach. And ultimately, I worked with her as a life coach, but she signed on as a consultant. And within 10 months, her team was a $500,000 team. Within 10 months. Yes. So my whole point is from Kim came the entire region of New England. So why? Because I was willing to stretch. I was willing to go there. I'm not saying you have to do what I'm doing or what I did. I'm not saying that at all. Pittsburgh was another area. Atlantic City was another area. Long Island was another area that I went to. North Jersey, back and forth to North Jersey. Rhode Island, I would go to Rhode Island and back. So yeah, Christy. So I'm not saying you've got to do what I've done, because not at all. But I would suggest that you guys stretch. Think about that. Think about that grit, right? Just think about that. I was determined. I did invest into this company, right? I did make lots of financial investments. But if you had a franchise or a brick and mortar building, wouldn't you make investments on marketing, on travel, on, experiences, expos, networking, wouldn't you, if you were really running it like a business? You know, for those of you who own a salon, that's how you have to do it. You have to market. You have to get out there. If you were a realtor, you'd be out there marketing and advertising. You'd be talking to people. You'd be networking. You'd be shaking hands. You'd be talking to them. So that's what I did, you know, in the first 2-3 years. So I had set the vision at 100,000 in 3 to 5 years. At 3 years, right around 3 years, I hit 6 figures. But that takes that, you know what I mean? So you got to invest in the business. You got to invest in your mind. You got to invest in learning. You got to invest in reflection and small tweaks growth. You got to invest in the 10 steps forward for the 5 steps rubber banded back in life. Setbacks, we all have them. So anyway, I hope that's, what other questions while I'm here? Anybody else? Christy, I hope that was helpful. Sharon says Meetup has a lot of networking events here. Yeah, sure, Sharon. Meetup in DC, that's a great thing. Meetups, take a look at Debbie Retzler does some meetups of her own out in St. Louis area. So yeah, meetups are great places to meet people. Awesome. Great, Christy, I'm glad. Is there any other questions that I can help? I'm here. You're welcome to pick my brain. What other questions do you have? You're welcome, Sherry. My pleasure. Hello, Miss Heather. I was just saying, let's see. I love that, Marissa. I don't sell jewelry. I sell the opportunity. Karen says I have more leads than time. That's it. Honestly, that's it. After doing shows and events with companies, several lines, truthfully, the #1 selling item. Let's see what you have here, Rosemary. Is always Touchstone. Yeah, the crystals. Most of all, it's not about me. It's about what the customer wants and sharing with them. What I have found is take myself out of it. The best comp plan, absolutely no question about it. That's it. That's great. That's great, Rosemary. So not so heavy about it. I love that. I love that. Let's see. More help on finding events, women's events. I'm not sure, Tracy, if you have taken a few, half an hour and just sort of searching around. Tracy, I mean, you more than anybody have been to many women's events. Here's the thing. Again, I did those events, but I didn't just do those events. And I do think, Tracy, you do a fair amount of events. The thing is what are you doing at the event? And what happens, what comes from the event. So you can take a look at the events that you've done, and maybe we can have our conversation at some point here this week where when we talk about what has happened over the last 6 months of the events that you've done. Like there are some of us that just go into events and you just are kind of like focused on reaping the money from the table, the money, the money that you put out for the table in terms of you're looking for sales. See, I don't spend time talking about the jewelry as much. I tell a little bit about the company. I get to know the people standing there as best as I can. And then I find their why by talking to them. I get to know them. Honestly, this business, as Rosemary was saying, because it's light, you're keeping it light. But and Tracy, you're good at asking great questions too, love. So getting to know people is really the most fun thing, because once you get to, I'll tell you what, this one woman that I just met the other night, her head was down. She was only looking at the jewelry. If I only talked about the jewelry, she would have turned around and walked away. It was more than that, you guys. I cracked her open by just asking. I talk softly. I don't stand behind the table. I kind of come around and I compliment them. I touch them gently. So it's talking to people and uncovering how Touchstone would fit in. What do they do for work? Do they work? Have they ever done anything in direct sales before? What brought them there that day? How do they dress for work? What's their favorite item of jewelry? If you unlock the person, that is where you're going to have more fun, find more joy, much more satisfaction, and you'll be talking more about the business opportunity and what's possible for them. And they will naturally buy. They will naturally buy if they want to shop at a vendor show, okay? I didn't sell much, okay? There were certain events that I did. If you want to sell a lot, you're going to go find shopping events. So when you open up your Facebook and you go to events, scroll down to 3/4 of the way down, it gives you an option that says shopping. Click on the shopping events and the shopping events will open up. You know, if there's alcohol involved and it's billed as a shopping event, you're going to have more sales. You're going to have very few conversations about the business. So when you go to an expo or when you do a vendor show, I wouldn't recommend you're going for sales. I've said this probably 5 million times, but yes, it's exciting to go because you just never know what's going to happen. And I try not to spend too much on those tables, but what you're going for is more leads than time. More leads than time. Ah! And you hold your clipboard and you hold your clipboard like this. You hold your clipboard and you're chatting with people. This is how I'm holding my clipboard just like this with my sign-in sheet. It has their name, it has their cell phone, it has Facebook. How can I find them on Facebook? And I'm chatting with them and they're asking me. And Christine did a phenomenal job. She put on the side of the corner of the table, she had the starter kit, and we both had a sign that said, the starter kit was $139, and I had a sign that said now hiring $50 to $85 an hour. Why not? Because that's the truth. And then we started conversations with people when they would ask us about we're hiring, now hiring. That's what we said. And I would get their information. So if I leave a vendor show and I have 10 names, I'm happy because I know that it's manageable and I know that I've had good one-on-ones with them. And I know then that how I'm following up with them. Follow-up has to be there too, guys. Follow-up has to be there. If you're going to go do an event, you got to take time within 2 days to send them messages. It was so great to meet you. Thank you so much for coming at the table. You just were a ball of energy. Thank you so much. I hope I see you again soon. You can drip on them that way. You don't have to go ahead and book a party right away. Or you had a conversation with them by the clipboard and you said, how about if I send you, so are you thinking Thursdays or Fridays? That's what we were doing. I was doing with Christine. And Tracy, you and I did this in October. So if they're interested and we got their name, I might say, so when you do a girls' night, do you prefer during the week or on a weekend? Right? And so during the week or on a weekend, they'll tell you and you go, okay, I'll tell you what. I have a couple of dates in March. I can show you because I have it right under here. Here are my March dates. She says, she might say, I have to check. Great, no problem. Here's my preview book. Here are my open dates for the, Thursdays and Fridays that you're looking for. I'll check back with you. So I'm going to make a little note here. I'm going to check back with her on those dates kind of thing. So again, it's about follow-up. It's about relationship building. It's not always about the sale. It's not about the sale. The sale happens because the jewelry is freaking amazing. The sale will come. If you're constantly focused on the sale, you're down, you're sort of kind of pigeonholing yourself, okay? Think bigger. Remember why people want direct sales. They're interested in direct sales because of the possibilities. They're interested in direct sales because of the income potential. They're interested in direct sales because of the entrepreneurial side of it and what's possible. The flexibility, the lifestyle that it can afford people to have. And I was saying earlier that 68% of Americans do not like online shopping if they haven't seen the jewelry. In this case, and if they haven't seen the product, but in this case, it's the jewelry. 68%. So if you're trying to push online parties and if you're trying to push Facebook parties too soon, I highly recommend that you get out there and you have 6 months at least worth of parties and you're doing your parties and you're enjoying that. And then you add people to a VIP page of some sort so that they have shopped with you. They have seen the jewelry. They're excited. I've shared this many times. Brand new consultants do not want to be doing online shopping. Brand new consultants do not want to be sending out their website for people to shop on. I've said this very many times. I have a new consultant right now who's struggling because she's not taking the orders. That's a tough one, She's used to doing everything on the phone and having people do everything on the phone and shop away on the phone. It doesn't work that way. It's not as productive or successful. So I hope that this was helpful. What other questions? What other questions while I'm here? Hi, Amy. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Heather. I don't know who all is still here, but I'm free. Hi, Debbie. I'm free to answer any questions. I mean, you can ask the 10-year anniversary girl any questions you want. I'm happy to answer. We were talking about, you're welcome, Miss Tracy. You can ask anything you want. We were talking about grit. And really digging deep, you know, grit is the definition of grit. I highly recommend go find, if you type in TED, T-E-D, and then grit, you will have Angela Duckworth's TED Talk on grit. It was really beautiful. We talk about growth mindset. Grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. You're welcome, Miss Christie, and I'm looking forward to a phone call with you. So let's connect so that we can schedule our call, okay? I know that we talked about that, and I want to do that. Because I do think it'll be, you're right there, love. You're right there, all right? Let's see. Yeah, and Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset. Great book was Mindset, which is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's a little, it's better, the book is better than the audio. The audio is a little challenging to listen to. But again, you don't have to be doing all that. You don't have to be, if you don't want to be a student. I have to say, I was watching Jane Fonda. So I was watching Jane Fonda in an interview on The View, okay? And it was talking, so if you Google this on YouTube, it was why Jane was talking about loving President Trump, okay? Now, you know Jane's a Democrat, okay. But anyway, you are welcome, Miss Ashley. You're welcome. Absolutely, I believe in all of you. Anything is possible. But anyway, if you went and found this one on Jane Fonda, where she was talking about President Trump, I just loved it because what she was talking about was, you know, she has been scared along the way, and I think that was the interviewer. She was talking about this, but what she says was, whenever I found that I was afraid of something, she said I dug in, and she goes, and I started to love that thing that I was afraid of. Oh, you're welcome, Tony. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. So what Jane Fonda was saying was that she really just kind of started to love that thing that she was afraid of. So whatever it is that you might be afraid of, which might be sponsoring or might be the compensation plan, you know, you're a little nervous about that. You're nervous about calendar blocking, whatever it is. If you start to really look at it differently and start to love it by practicing, just by practicing it, just by trying something different, just by talking to your upline and tweaking things. Jane Fonda, an absolute icon, and I totally revere this woman. She's 81 years old. I mean, she's just not stopping. I mean, she's just, her mindset is just lovely, just beautiful. Start to watch a little bit. That's another thing about mindset, you know. When you can have some icons that you're watching and you're revering and you're admiring and you want to grow into kind of thing. My goodness, it makes your day so much more exciting to know that, again, if you're living here and you're constantly thinking about this small area, start to think a little bit differently, start to think a little bit bigger maybe, and see how your day goes, see if it's a little bit brighter. And really start to love the fear. Whatever that fear is, enjoy the fear, talk to it differently, be gentle with yourself, and, you know, be around to celebrate. Those little wins are so powerful to celebrate, you know. And I don't know what your little wins are. And sometimes you don't even recognize them either until you have a one-on-one. So I hope that you will take me up on that offer and have some one-on-ones. I'm going to open up. It's supposed to snow again here in Pennsylvania on Wednesday. And if that's the case, then some of my appointments will be canceled. So I might be on the lookout for open coaching calls. I'd be happy to chat with you. Anyway, you girls were great. I am so happy that I can sit here with you. Let's see here. On your down days, let's see what you're asking. Let's see, on your down days about home party sponsoring, who did you reach out to? On my down days, Kel, I'm not sure what you're asking, but again, if I have more leads than time, I would be, let's say, for example, I've reached out to people so many times, I would be just reaching out to them to thank them for always being supportive, and I might ask them for a referral. I'm not sure what you're asking, but if on my down days, if I didn't have the bookings I wanted, I would be booking. If I, I'm always sponsoring, always doing outreach for sponsoring, always putting that out there. So I'm always looking at events. I'm checking things out. Where am I going to go next? What area do I want to go stir up? What area would I like? Central Pennsylvania. Hello. I've been telling you all, Central Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, they're very wide open. So Harrisburg, Hershey, York, Lancaster, very wide open. We have you. Who did I have? Great question. Who did I reach out to? So I had a coach. I think I mentioned that. And I just would read and I would study people from, different direct sales. And I really like studying. Hi, Cara. I do like studying, books. So that's my style. Or I'd go to seminars, or, I would learn from other direct sellers. But I usually follow men because I'm more, my brain works more, I think, a little bit more like a man's. I don't know why, but that's just me. So I would read people like Darren Hardy, or I would read Bob Berg's, Go Give or Sell More, which is an amazing set of books. Go Give or Sell More. Hi, Miss Marissa. Hey, Marissa, you and I have to talk. So we got to schedule, okay? So remember that. We got to get ourselves together here because I would love to chat with you. So anyway, so that's what I would do. I would sometimes talk to Kay. Again, I would have other coaches and other mentors to help me. So, I hope that was helpful. So I'm sorry, Cara, and I'm sorry, Marissa. I know you got on late. You might want to just rewind and watch again. I'm going to go ahead and post that. But anyway, thank you girls so much. And anytime, pick my brain, ask questions. I'm going to put up an open coaching segment here sometime this week or early next week, okay? And I hope to have the opportunity to talk to new gals and more of you. All right. I love you very much from my heart. You mean the world to me. And I wouldn't be here 10 years, I can promise you that, without you. So have a wonderful second to last week here of February. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I'll talk to you soon.